Hello, I'm here. It's 3 p.m. on Wednesday, June 3rd. I think I said that date wrong yesterday. I think I skipped ahead a little. Bah. It is June 3rd, Wednesday. It is something day 3 or 4 or something of Rhode Island phase 2 reopening. And we continue to move ahead in Rhode Island. So good job, everybody. Keep your face mask wearing going and your social distancing and all your safety protocols, and we will continue to move ahead. But we must be diligent at that everywhere. It is another day after another night of unrest in our country, in our cities, and we are thinking of everyone who is plagued by that and has been for some time, and we encourage a healthy discussion and healthy discourse on how we can all move forward. And the library is proud to offer materials that can help with discussions that you may need to have at your own family table, in your own home, in your workplace, in your community. So please reach out to us if we can provide any sort of reference for you, reference material, guidance. We're happy to play that role for you in our community. This is Frankenstein Tea, a daily check-in for adults. This is adult stories and a time for you to sit back and take a time out, listen to a story, maybe, think about how your day's going, how your day has been already, maybe change it up for yourself. Think about what you could maybe possibly do for the second half of your day here. As we have more daylight, that becomes more and more of a possibility. When we first started this program, it was 3 o'clock. It was going to be dark in a couple of hours, and we were lucky we made it to 3 o'clock. But things are changing. I hope everyone is feeling better about the changes and is able to navigate and negotiate your day in a healthy way. If you're not able to do so, please reach out for help. There are resources available on island as well as off island. Of course, on island resources are available through the Block Island Medical Center. There's a listing for them at their website and also at blockislandmentalhealth.org. That is the NAMI BI website. And, help is available. And at NAMI BI, we work to reduce shame and stigma around mental health issues. So if you or anyone you know or care for or take care of or care about needs help, please reach out. Help is available. I just made myself some tea. It's not going to be great. I used my tea bag like 3 times already today. It's okay. I am reading something today from a book called Well-Read Black Girl by Glory Edom, and it's nonfiction. This is a book of essays. It's called an anthology, Well-Read Black Girl: Finding Our Stories, Discovering Ourselves, edited by Glory Edom, Ballantine Books, New York. Published in 2018. Her what's it called? Her dedication to the well-read Black girl community. I'm in awe of what we've built together. Books will always bond our sisterhood. For the countless authors who spoke to me from the page, from Toni Morrison to Audre Lorde, their words guided me into womanhood. I'm reading something by Renee Watson from this book. It's called Space to Move Around In. I think I might have to go back and read what I just skimmed too. because I think it's a reference to this. So we'll see how this goes here today, and then we'll see if we'll read something quick at the end. But this is from Well-Read Black Girl, an anthology edited by Gloria Edom. This is Renee Watson, Space to Move Around In. When I was 7 years old, a white store clerk looked at my green-eyed, light-skinned mother and said, "You are so beautiful." Looking down at me and noticing my mother holding my hand, she surveyed my dark brown skin, brown eyes, and asked, "Are you adopted?" At the age of 7, I knew my dark brown skin wasn't beautiful. My big belly and wide hips didn't fit into regular dress sizes made for normal-sized girls. So when my mother took me shopping for Easter Sunday, we spent hours at Montgomery Ward, Sears, and JCPenney looking for the perfect dress. I remember going to the plus-size section of these stores, feeling like I was being punished. Clothes that fit me were always in the back corner of the store, and there were never as many options available for me as there were for thinner girls. Once, when a store clerk offered to help my mom look for a size, she said with pity, "I don't think we carry hard-to-fit sizes here." By the 5th grade, I knew my body was the wrong kind of body. This isn't to say that I had a depressed childhood. The constant affirmations from my mother, the women at church, the ladies sitting on their porches watching and gossiping nurtured and fortified me. My house, elementary school, and church were all nestled in the Black community of Northeast Portland. It felt like everyone knew one another. Kids who grew up on the same block or just around the corner from one another also went to the same school, the same church. We were a spectrum of browns. We were big hips and thin waists, pressed hair, jerry curls, and afro puffs. We were fish fries and cookouts, ribs and collard greens. Many of us were in Portland because someone in our family migrated west in the 40s to work the shipyards during World War II. Our community's roots reached back to Georgia and Kentucky, Louisiana and Arkansas. Somehow Black people had found a way to make Oregon home. But my life wasn't only in Northeast Portland. Every time I stepped outside my neighborhood, I felt how different I was, how non-white I was. At my predominantly white middle school on the other side of town, the teachers assigned books featuring thin white girls. The posters in the hallways, thin white girls. Outside of Northeast Portland, white and skinny were the default, the norm. Portland is the city of roses. Every June, the city is immersed in the Portland Rose Festival, a 5-week celebration that has been a citywide tradition since 1907. In elementary school, the Rose Festival was a chance to eat cotton candy at the carnival. I loved getting the colored sugar web tangled and stuck on my fingers, my tongue. Every year, I was determined to win a stuffed animal at the rollerball or ping pong toss games. The highlight of the Rose Festival for me was attending the Grand Floral Parade. More than 500,000 spectators lined the parade route to see marching bands from local schools, drill teams, and elaborate floats. The float we all were waiting for was the rose-studded one that carried the Rose Festival Princesses. The Rose Festival Court was made up of 14 senior girls from Portland metro area high schools. They waved from the float and blew kisses to their loved ones and friends in the crowd. They weren't princesses in a superficial way. They were celebrated for being at the top of their classes, for being leaders in the community. I wanted to be a princess. When I said this to one of my teachers, he replied, "You are definitely a leader, Renee, and you have more than enough volunteer hours. But you're not going to win. You aren't the princess type." Then he looked at the girl sitting next to me and said, "You should run. You'd make a great princess." The girl he was talking to was white and thin. But I ran away, and my school voted for me. I was Princess Renee, representing my high school. All 14 of us girls toured the state of Oregon. We talked with school officials about what was important to youth, what we needed in our schools. We visited nursing homes and children's hospitals, making art alongside the residents and patients. We met the mayor and other distinguished leaders of our city and state. One of the perks was getting a brand new wardrobe. Everywhere we went, we dressed alike from head to toe. Nothing ever fit me. No one had considered a big girl might be chosen to be a Rose Festival princess, and so all of the clothing stores that sponsored the program were the ones that only carried normal sizes. Alterations were made, but I spent the whole 2 months feeling suffocated in clothes that weren't made with bodies like mine and mine. I got used to squeezing in and out of spaces, holding in my stomach, sucking in my breath. This while explaining to the white girls why my pressed hair could not get wet in Portland's rain, while debunking the stereotypes some of them had about people who lived there, the place that was my home, was emotionally exhausting. I spent my adolescence feeling free, loved, and beautiful at home, and suffocated, interrogated, and abnormal with these girls. I learned how to contort myself, physically and emotionally, in order to fit into the confined spaces available for me. Black girls could not be too confident, too loud, too smart. Fat girls could be cute, but not beautiful, could be the funny sidekick or wise truth teller in school plays, never the leading role or love interest. There was an internal tug of war with my self-esteem. There were many times when my hands slipped, when I felt my soul being pulled into self-doubt. As a child, I tried so hard to pull the rope closer to what my mom had told me, tried to hold on to the legacy left behind by all the ancestors I learned about, tried to stand firm and not waver. Senior year, I attended a week-long poetry intensive at Portland State University. One of my teachers nominated me to be in the program because she knew I loved to write. The cohort was a mix of 20 teens from different schools in Portland, both private and public. The three of us Black kids sat together on the first day, and when our white teacher tried to get us to separate, we quickly pointed out to him that the other kids were sitting together and he wasn't telling them to mingle. He left us alone. I was thinking maybe I wouldn't come back the next day, but then he introduced me to Lucille Clifton. He passed out 2 of her poems on a worksheet. Homage to my hair and homage to my lips. I had loved poetry since elementary school and had notebooks full of my own verses, but I had never seen poems like these, poems about being big and Black and beautiful and woman. Lucille wrote that her hips needed space to move around in. They did not fit in little pretty places. In her poem, she bragged, "These hips have never been enslaved. They go where they want to go. They do what they want to do." She compared her nappy hair to good greens. Lucille's words were oxygen. These poems healed every aching part of the 7-year-old girl in me. They were confirmation that my mother and all those women who ever told me I was worth something were right. Her words revived me. Because of her, I let out all I was holding in. It wasn't just her words that affirmed me. At the bottom right-hand corner of the handout, there was a photo of Lucille Clifton. Her short, natural hair, her round, full face, brown skin. In Lucille, I saw those women in my neighborhood, at my church. In Lucille, I saw me. What does it mean to celebrate the parts of you that others demean, disregard, disapprove of? How does a woman hold on to her self-worth when so many forces want to disvalue her? How does a Black woman make space for her truth, her body? This is not the discussion we had in class. I don't know that my white male teacher understood the depth of Clifton's work. He used the poems as examples of ode poems, but the literal and the metaphorical meaning of homage to my hips and homage to my hair were anthems of freedom to me. They intersected Blackness and womanness, and though they sounded lighthearted and simple when read aloud, for my 17-year-old self, they were just as good as protest poems as they were odes. They stood up to conventional beauty standards. They stood up for me. My teacher was focused on the obvious. Choose a body part you love or hate and write a tribute poem to it. I wrote about my dimples, how everyone called them beautiful, saying, "You have such a pretty face," never complimenting the rest of me. I teach poetry to teens, and I always include a photo of the poet on the handout. I want my readers to see Maya Angelou, Gwendolyn Brooks, Nikki Giovanni. I want them to know what Sandra Cisneros, Natalie Diaz, and Patricia Smith look like. Someone will see their reflections looking back at them. Others won't. Both are important. Who makes the work is just as important as the work made. It meant something to see this Black woman looking at me, controlling her own narrative. There was no apology in her poetry. She was Black and beautiful and sure of that. When I teach Lucille Clifton in the classroom, I end the unit with students writing their own poems of celebration, of overcoming. But before any writing, I ask my students the questions my teachers didn't ask. We talk about beauty standards. We talk about what it means for a woman, a Black woman, to write about her body. I have these conversations with all of my students, not just the girls, not just Black students. I have meaningful discussions with my white students as well. They are asked, some of them for the first time, to think about Blackness, about Black women. We read, "Won't you celebrate with me?" and talk about all the things they have tried and still tried to kill Black women and have failed. On the eve of Election Day 2008, I took my students to hear Lucille Clifton read at the 92nd Street Y in New York City. We were able to go backstage and spend time with her before the event started. We were all aglow at the hope of electing the first Black president of the United States. She talked about that hope and encouraged the young people in the room to keep hoping and dreaming and telling their stories. One of my students cried. The others, who were never, ever speechless, couldn't raise their hands to ask the questions that were already written down in their writing notebooks. I basked in her glory too. There was no moment for me to tell her what her words had done for me, no chance to thank her. She read, "Listen, children," to close out our time before the main event began. I know she was talking to everyone in the room, but I like to think she was especially talking to me. Listen, children, we have never hated Black. Listen, we have been ashamed, hopeless, tired, mad, but always, always, we loved us. We have always loved each other, children, always. Pass it on. That was, who was that? Renee. sorry, Renee Watson. That was an essay called The Space to Move Around In, from a book of The Well-Read Black Girl, Finding Our Stories, Discovering Ourselves. I'm going to read you a poem that was referenced in that story. You'll bear with me for one more second. This is by Lucille Clifton. Won't you celebrate with me? Won't you celebrate with me what I have shaped into, a kind of life I had no model. Born in Babylon, both non-white and woman, what did I see to be except myself? I made it up here on this bridge between starshine and clay, my one hand holding tight, my other hand. Come celebrate with me that every day something has tried to kill me and has failed. Thanks for coming to Frankenstein Tea. I'm here every day at 3 o'clock and will be. I hope you come back and I hope you enjoyed. Have a great afternoon. Bye.